Hey guys, welcome to Bastion Time. I'm your host Bastion. This is Nintendo News. Let's get to that news. Now, first of all, a very, I wouldn't really say amusing story. In my opinion, it's not that amusing, but I'll get to that. Basically, it's a story about somebody who was a developer for Star Fox 2. Now, if you're not familiar, Star Fox 2 was a sequel to the original Star Fox for the Super Nintendo, and it was meant to be released for the Super Nintendo, but it was cancelled, and then they made Star Fox 64 instead. And it was strangely cancelled very close to completion. So, anyways, there's some backstory for you. But anyways, this fellow who was working as a developer on it was out having drinks with some fellow Nintendo staff in Japan, and at the end of that, for whatever reason, he was given like hundreds of pages about the prototype for what would become the Nintendo 64. Maybe he was gonna be moved on to the Star Fox 64 team or something. I don't know. Anyways, the point is he was given these hundreds of pages, and he goes on to say that he was very drunk, and as was everybody apparently who went out to drink after work, and that as a result, he forgot his bike. And, you know, you do a lot of biking around in Japan, so he was on the back end of somebody else's bike who was going to drop him off at his place, and they were going through a crosswalk when suddenly they went into a pothole, and all of those hundreds of pages about this top secret console that nobody was supposed to know anything about went flying everywhere, and they thought it was so funny because they were so drunk. And I don't know, I mean, I understand that in regular society, those kinds of stories are hilarious, the drunken antics of people, but I think it was awfully reckless. Like, you know, it's a top secret console, nobody's supposed to know anything about it. He was entrusted with these hundreds of pages, and, you know, he didn't take care to make sure they were secure, so that if something like falling off the bike while he was really drunk happened, that they wouldn't go flying everywhere. Thankfully, apparently, he was able to recover them all, so it didn't really matter, but I don't know. The reason why I'm so annoyed with this story, to be honest with you, is because it was framed, it was like an interview with him, and now he's like the head of some other development studio or whatever, some indie studio I've never heard of. And it was framed under the whole, oh, this is a hilarious story that I'm going to tell you, you know, because we were drunk and so it's so funny. And I just really don't find those kinds of stories that funny. But that's probably just me. I'm sure you guys find it very amusing. If you want to read more about that interview, there is a link down there for you. Our next and final story for the day, yes, only 2 stories for this video because, geez, not a whole heck of a lot happened this past 7 days, so nothing really much for me to talk about, but this has a lot of information in it, so it's kind of meaty, but basically it was the Legend of Zelda 30th Anniversary concert, which is only happening in Japan for whatever reason, which seems strange to me because I think there are more Zelda fans over in the US than there actually are in Japan, but anyways, I'm not miffed or anything, but anyway. So over there, they're having this concert, which, by the way, has nothing to do with Symphony of the Goddesses, completely different arrangements, completely different presentation, and during it, Mr. Miyamoto and Mr. Aonuma themselves, you know, talked about some development things from all the way back for the first Legend of Zelda until currently, and revealed quite a few interesting things that I certainly wasn't already aware of, and I think I'm pretty up on random Zelda trivia. But then some of it was about Breath of the Wild and the development of that. Of course, they want to promote that as much as they can. And they were talking about things that have been staples of the Legend of Zelda series that they plan on always being staples, about how music is very important to the Legend of Zelda right from the beginning, that when you solve a puzzle or whatever right in the first game, it plays that familiar thing, you know, the you solve the puzzle kind of jingle, and that's very important, that all Zelda games must have that exact same song, and things like that. Even if they're changing things, like making it less linear, but really that's returning to the roots of the original Legend of Zelda, right? That basically there are certain things that must always stay the same. They did bring up one weird little tidbit that I don't understand, and that's that it took many people on the music writing staff for Ocarina of Time to come up with the Kakariko Village theme. This makes no sense on so many levels because, first of all, I think Koji Kondo was still the only person on the composition side of things, even as late as Ocarina of Time, right? Not to mention that that's not the first time that we've heard that song. We first heard that song in the previous game in A Link to the Past, where he definitely was the only person on the composition staff. So even if somehow some of the arrangers or whatever of the music in Ocarina of Time contributed melodically or whatever to the Ocarina of Time version of that song, that statement just makes no sense. It clearly has to be a mistranslation unless there's something that I'm forgetting. Like, is it a completely different song in Ocarina of Time? No, I'm pretty sure it's the same melody, so I don't know. But anyways, if you want to read more about all of that stuff that they talked about during that special presentation for The Legend of Zelda 30th Anniversary Concert Series that we're never going to see over here in the US, or elsewhere outside of Japan, you can watch it. There's a link down there for you. That's it for this episode of Nintendo News. See you guys in a couple days for more news. Bye, guys.